On the left, people are used to people like me being quiet.
Okay, so on the left, people are used to people like me being quiet. What does he mean by that? Let's take a look.
Kind of an expectation that people who are cis or white or men should kind of like be deferential to the voices of marginalized groups. And there is a truth behind that. I think it's valid to say that, you know, you should listen.
So white, male, cis. So on the left, people are used to white, male, cis people being silent. I don't know what you think silent is. Where is he getting this idea? Now, there is a discourse about this, right? There are people saying that we need to hear more from marginalized voices. There are people saying that people like Vaush often, you know, kind of insert themselves into discourses that they don't fully understand and often talk over us. There are people saying that somebody like Vaush is going to have an easier time getting traction, getting attention, financing what he's doing so that it's actually sustainable. But they're saying that not in a vacuum, Vaush, but as a reaction to the material conditions that we're looking at, which are that people like you are overrepresented in our discourse, even on the left. So Vaush hears this message of like, we want to hear more from marginalized people, and he feels like that's some kind of oppression. The discourse, the talk, the words are oppression. Never mind the material reality of what's going on. Never mind the reason that those words are being spoken. Just the sheer fact that those words are being spoken to Vaush are people trying to silence him. And this is the reactionary nature, I fucking hate to say, of debate bros, because I feel like we've got to find something better to call them. Debate bro doesn't quite cover everything. Debate bro, I don't like that term. It's not just debaters. It's like an attitude of privilege. It's a reactionary element within the left, right? I feel like we got to name that a little bit better if we want to take these people on, and we need to take these people on, because that idea that the real oppression is against white cis men is counter revolutionary. I hate to say it.
On the online left, if you disagree with like a black queer woman, you got to give a good goddamn argument for why. If you disagree with a white boy like me, all you have to do is say, like, you're speaking too loud, like you need to listen to marginalized voices when they disagree with you, and that's it, you know?
And why does this work? Why is this successful for him? We're leftists. Most of us consider ourselves intersectional, even in his community. Why does that work? Why does that play? Unfortunately, it's because it resonates with way too many people on the left. He's speaking a kind of white grievance. If somebody got all fragile like this during some kind of meeting or something in real life, it would be a different story. People would recognize that as cringe. But something about like the online nature of things, it causes the people that feel that same fragility to be like, oh yeah, he's speaking truth, right? Yeah, he's speaking reactionary sentiment in an online leftist space. And that, unfortunately, that's a top seller.
I think people with privilege should use their privilege, weaponize it to support marginalized groups, and I do my best to do that.
Okay, so, you know, I'm like, that's true. Weaponizing your privilege, utilizing your privilege, let's just say leveraging your privilege. Right? If you've got privilege, it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you can't contribute. On the contrary, it means you should contribute. It means that you should try to use that. But Vaush's real motive isn't just to use his privilege on the behalf of those of us who don't have it. His motive is to use that privilege as a justification for his leadership. And like, look, I am somebody who watched Vaush really early on. I was a fan early on. Like a lot of leftists, I felt like we were getting our ass kicked all over the place by the right wing. You know, going back to the kind of post-Gamergate atmosphere. And for Vaush to stand up to bullying chuds and bully them back a little bit felt good. But whenever I watch him for any extended period of time, I notice he had a chip on his shoulder when it comes to trans people, when it comes to black people, when it comes to marginalized people. He had this sort of fragile reaction, and he couldn't take criticism from these people. He was overly sensitive. He was overly reactive. Just somebody coming on stream with him, debating him and disagreeing, had him saying stuff like, you trans people are too fragile. the trans community is full of mental illness, right? These meltdown streams, right? That's what they used to call them back in the day. It was a Vaush meltdown, right? Where he would freak out and just go like full reactionary and say stuff like, listen, you need to stop disagreeing with me, trans person, because I don't want to be digging a hole for you to be unalived into. So he was raising the specter of violence against trans people, massive systematic violence against trans people. Vaush raised that specter as a justification not to stop us from silencing him, because us silencing him was never on the table, but rather to silence us, to tell us to get in the back seat. He's, telling us essentially, I got this. Fuck off. Like, do you want me to save you or do you not? I mean, this is some cis savior shit. And, it's combined with white savior shit and all kinds of other. That's how, at least deep inside, he views his privilege as not just like he should leverage it on behalf of marginalized people, but that he should be the leader. And Vaush, listen, that is not you going against the current. That is not you changing things. That is not you standing up to power. What power do I have, Vaush? What power do I have? No, that is you reinforcing the pre-established dynamic. That's reactionary, my dude. And this is the problem that people like me have with you and your clout network. Here's where things get confused, right? We're talking about, what we're talking about is reactionary leftists versus intersectional left. That is the real battle. Now, this is why I don't like the term debate bro, because it's not about them having debates. There is a correlation between people who use debates as their format, as their way of getting attention, and reactionary leftists, right? They do, there is a correlation, but it's not one-to-one. Like you could be a debate streamer like Poly People and, not have that kind of reactionary level, or certainly not have it to the extent that somebody like Vaush or Xanderhal does, right? Or you could be a video essayist just as bad as Vaush, right? So it's not about the format. It's not about whether you debate or make essays. It's not whether you're Twitch or YouTube. There's a different dichotomy here, and I really want to get to the heart of this. The problem with these people is reactionary sentiment and savior complexes and moral self-licensing, right? This sense that Vaush feels like he's done so much for X marginalized group, so a little bit of harm is justified. That's a weird idea. That has always struck me as wrong. And that is not the kind of sentiment that you can build a movement around. That is not the kind of sentiment that you can build solidarity around. If you're gonna say that my harm against you is justified by the good that I've tried to do on your behalf, you are not building a movement. Vaush will always talk about gatekeeping, like he's gonna get gatekept, Xanderhal's gonna get gatekept, all these people are being gatekept. I don't see that. I see you as the gatekeepers. I see you as the people that are making sure that, first of all, marginalized people take a back seat, but not always, right? Because you could have a marginalized person that just kisses Vaush's ass, and then Vaush will, absolutely promote that person, absolutely use that person as a fig leaf, saying, see, I'm not transphobic, I'm not racist, see, I'm helping this person out. But it's always gonna be that pick me voice that Vaush chooses, that Vaush picks, right? It's always gonna be, that kind of person. So really what we're talking about is self-determination being squashed. The ability of marginalized groups to liberate themselves being hampered. That's the problem with these guys.
It seems like as soon as a person on the left dislikes me, their ability to recognize the validity of what I do just instantly goes out the window for like the majority of them, which is frustrating. So my position is this: I don't want my disruptiveness as a figure to deter people in my community from seeking out the best voices and the best arguments, I think other people on the left are doing that because they're discounting the value that I bring.
So what I see is him saying that, listen, even though Sean calls me out on Twitter, even though I hate that Sean calls me out on Twitter, I'm going to still recommend Sean's video essays. Great. They're trying to silence me, but I'm not trying to silence them. Gosh, you can't silence Sean. You can't silence ContraPoints. You can't silence Cat Black. If you could, I think you would. If you could, I think you absolutely would. So yeah, you will continue to acknowledge their existence as prominent figures on the left because you have to. But how many voices have you silenced? Stop it. I don't want to name the names because these are the people that Vaush has like harassed off the platform. There's a list of people, and even me bringing their names up risks hate watchers going after them again, right? So I'm not going to name names. But I think we all know people who have been pushed off of the platform, who have been silenced, who have been attacked. And smaller streamers can be attacked. Smaller streamers can be negatively effective. Smaller streamers can be dogpiled. You, on the other hand, you make money every time somebody criticizes you. What is the DJ Muel video on now? About 250,000 views, right? These people aren't hurting you. You are monetizing them.
Dog? Yeah, I feel like the issue isn't getting along. It's, does the fact that you're not getting along meaningfully impede your ability to engage in good advocacy? And for me, the answer to that, I think it's no. And for other people on the left, I think the answer to that is yes. If they could dislike me but still understand or recognize the value of what I do, that would be fine for me.
And so in the beginning of this video, he implied that part of the reason that he is not respected, part of the reason that people want to silence him is because his tone isn't great, that he's rude. He basically said, I'm a bit of an asshole, and some people don't like an asshole, and I can understand that, right? So what's your problem with Sean again? That he's mean to you on Twitter? That you don't like his tone? Yeah, these people don't even recognize like how knee-deep in double standards they actually are. Yeah, somebody's bringing up that Sean is subject to the same kind of fragility as well, right?
Don't get me wrong, I will recommend against certain people's content if I feel like they're harmful, you know, or wrong or stupid or whatever. But I try to make those arguments separately from how I feel about them as a person. You know,
in other words, if they stand up for self-determination.
I'm not perfect, of course, but it's something that I make an effort to do. And yeah, I don't know. It just seems really difficult for a lot of people to manage, especially since
So as long as they're good marginalized people and they get in line and they stand back and they don't get in Vaush's way, he has no problem recommending them.
my prominence in the online left has led so many people to engage in this really weird broad attack against like debate bros or live streamers, but they always walk all those arguments back the moment they have a proper conversation about that. Like I remember,
I mean, listen, like I do agree that some of those criticisms are overly broad. Actually, no, it's not that. It's not that they're overly broad. It's that they're slightly misdirected. The problem with you isn't that you do debates. The problem with you is that you're reactionary. And same thing for your whole clout network. There's a little bit of a misidentification. There's a little bit of a tendency to euphemize it as being debate bros, as being live streamers. I'm a live streamer. I've participated in debates, right? I don't think that I'm doing the same kind of harm that Vaush is doing. I don't think that I'm standing in people's way the way that Vaush is standing in people's way. So I think there is a degree to which some of the criticism of these people like misses the mark. But, you know, I mean, that's just nomenclature, really.
JD Signifier doing this video on this, but then he walked it all back with Shark Leo Zero.
JD Signifier, yeah. So you can tell how familiar Vaush is with Black Pred too, like
pretty much immediately. And it's like, well,
JD Signifier.
He didn't walk it all back. I shouldn't say that. Just like a lot of his criticisms of debate bros or of like live stream content instantly smoothed out the moment anyone challenged him. I did the same with Noah Samson. It's like, why make these arguments if you don't really believe it? Like if you personally dislike me, make a video calling me like, that's fine.
You want me to explain that? Do you want me to explain why you get a different demeanor from them when you bring them on your live stream versus when they're talking to you on Twitter or whatever, or doing a video essay? It's because you're taking people that aren't part of the debate culture, that haven't done debates, putting them in front of your audience, which is inherently hostile to them. Like, I mean, it's a psyop. Listen, I will say it. Going to debate Vaush, Xander Hall, or any of these people is a mistake. You are going onto their territory. You are going into their arena, and they are used to being being assholes for profit. They're used to that. They can go as hard on you as they need to. Normal people don't react the way that you need to react in a debate situation. So, you know, if somebody's a video essayist and they come on to a debate stream, there's this thing that we just naturally do. And I find myself doing it too. When I talk to somebody, and the more in person, the more this is true, right? On Twitter, less so. On a stream with somebody else, like more so. In person, even more so. Where I'll try to find a middle ground. Almost unconsciously. And I found myself in situations where I was kind of like way too lenient on people like this that I've gone on stream with. That's part of the reason that I don't do it anymore, right? Another part of the reason is that they monetize this stuff. They want that conflict. They profit from that conflict. They are set up to let that conflict help them. And if you're not, then you're basically losing from that exchange, and you're also helping them. There's almost no chance of making inroads, of making a dent on their parasocial fandom. It's set up with you as the heel and them as the hero. So it's not a good deal. It's not a deal that it's an unfair game, and you shouldn't play it. By playing their game, you're not only hurting yourself, you're hurting all of us. You're hurting the marginalized group you're representing. I don't want to victim blame anyone. I don't think that people understand the dynamics that they're going into, but I want people to understand these dynamics. I want people to know that when you play this game with these people, you are feeding. Okay, so don't be a feeder.
Like, I'm okay with that. That's your right. Godspeed. Just, you know,
Godspeed? What are you, Jink Uger? Yeah, I mean, they're worse than the anti-SJWs of old because the call's coming from inside the house. Because they're getting to do this, like, nominally from the online left, right? That's the, you know, Sargon, Medicare, all these people. No, none of these people ever claim to be left-wing. Unfortunately, in a community that large, it only takes one or two people who really take your grievance, which that's all it is grievance, right? They take your grievance too seriously. They're invested in you in a parasocial way, and they feel like they need to do something to the person that is bad. Vaush, by you calling people who come on your stream to debate you about like black separatism versus black nationalism, by you essentially calling those people Hitler, you're taking the gloves off. You are authorizing who knows what to be done by some of your most troubled fans. And with an audience as big as yours, there's going to be some troubled people out there that take this stuff way too seriously, that take the words that you say way too seriously. Now, you and I know that you're saying this stuff to win the argument. You and I know that to you, this is blood sports debates. You don't really mean those things. You don't really think that anti-white racism is an existential problem, but you know that you can use that. You know that you can present bookends. You know that you can knock off the competition to the left of you with these disingenuous tactics. Some of the people out there in your audience don't know that. They think you're serious when you call somebody, you know, like basically when you call somebody Black Hitler, they take that seriously. And you're putting these people in danger, and you know that you're putting these people in danger, and that's part of how you silence your critics. So Vaush, this whole video is about why the online left hates you, why you're getting silenced, why you're being treated unfair, and it's because you're poor guy, you're white, cis, not straight, male. Okay, anyway.